Aloha and hello. Welcome to Holy Matrimony. I'm James Fenimore. That's at James Fenimore _.
And I'm Trisha Fenimore. That's at Trisha Fenimore. You can find the show at Holy Matrimony __. And you can find us on YouTube and Rumble at The Fenimores.
Today we're brought to you by Sex Ed Reclaimed. Have you ever wondered how to talk to your kids about sex but don't quite have the words? Sex Ed Reclaimed has you covered with age-appropriate content made just for your family. Get curriculum that covers all the hard topics from a faith-based worldview. Kristen Miele has educated tens of thousands of students in multiple countries to encourage organic conversations within families about a gift God created. This education was made for such a time as this, so find your curriculum today at sexedreclaimed.com. All right, today we're going to be talking about kids.
Yep.
When to have them, why to have them,
why not to have them,
why not to have them, and what it changes in the marriage and in the dynamics of the family.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think?
All right, so let's talk about when to have them.
Okay.
I think there's only one answer. Well, two answers.
Well, let's be clear. If it's a choice.
What do you mean?
Sometimes,
things happen.
Things happen.
Okay, so accidents, yes. Those are
when you're family
when
planning.
God's plan surprises you.
Yes, if you're family planning, this is the episode.
Yeah. So I think, and this might be controversial what I'm about to say. I think that obviously the ideal is you're married. And then I think my opinion is that if you're married for a little while, maybe at least a year. And look, it doesn't need to be hard and fast rules. Ultimately, my suggestion is always going to be follow God. If you feel God calling you to start a family on the honeymoon, by all means, Godspeed. Whatever God wants for your life, that's really my answer. But from a pragmatic standpoint, as far as establishing a foundation in the relationship of just the two of us in marriage, I think that it's important. And somebody told me that when we got married, because I was 31, I believe, when we got married.
Yeah.
How I forget that numbers. Anyway, but I was 31. And so obviously, there's all that pressure of you gotta, but I didn't really feel that way. And somebody gave me a really good piece of advice, which was once you have kids, you will always have kids. That will always be your dynamic. The time before you have kids is finite and that runs out. But once you have the kids, once you start into the pregnancy and all of that, then you have kids forever. And so for me, I thought, even though we got married later and started having a family later, I did think that it was really important that we had some time before that.
Yeah, so I love that. And I love what you said before that. Different strokes for different folks. If God's calling you to do something else, if you have an impassion to do something else, we are not telling you to do anything else.
Yeah, don't listen to us if God's telling you to do something else. Do what he has for you.
This is what worked for us. This is the reasoning why. This is what we've learned.
Right.
But by all means, do what you got to do.
Right.
We loved it because we wanted to be married. We also were fast. We were a little fast.
That's true. We got engaged in under a year, and so it's not like we had this big
there wasn't a big courtship.
Yeah, it's not like we were together for a decade. Yeah. So we did still need to get to know each other. We weren't
already bored with each other. Ready? No. We never. Let's get some excitement in here. Let's get a toddler running around. No,
I'll liven it up.
No, we wanted to experience being a married couple.
Yeah.
And we wanted to, go out to dinner whenever on a whim. We wanted to just, let's go away this weekend. We wanted to do those things, and we knew having children would change that dynamic.
Because we had friends who had children, and for many of us, our friends had older children.
Yeah.
So we'd seen what that changes already, and believe me, we're gonna get to the changes, and almost all of them are beautiful changes, but there are other changes too, where your lifestyle has to kind of change and shift. But I think,
So it's nice to experience it and do it and go through it because you don't then long for it, right?
Yeah.
And I think we look back fondly on those times, and sometimes we'll joke remember Hawaii,
what was that like?
Yeah, those days are gone. Imagine sitting on a plane for 14 hours with our kids. But that's a joke. That
Yeah,
is a
yeah, yeah.
legitimate joke. But we look back fondly on it. We don't look back longing on it.
Right, because
And-
we enjoyed that
And
time
it was
together.
a beautiful memory, and it was us growing together as a couple.
Yeah.
And then when we were ready,
Yeah.
and when God told us it was time,
Right.
it was time.
I think that there's two things. So one is the word ready, which is going to come up. And I would say that we were ready in quotes. Like we were ready in that we knew we could never be ready. Like we knew that we were as ready as we could be, but without having experienced the massive shift from no kids to parenthood, we were as ready as we could be, but we also knew we weren't ready. And that's part of the maturity too, right? Like when you feel the Bible verse comes to mind where it's like God exalts the humble and humbles the proud. And it's like some of these people where it's like, I'm going to be the perfect parent. No screen time, no processed foods, and it's like, wonderful. Have at it. Let me know how it goes, because it changes things once you're in it. And we can all think that we're going to do it one way, but usually when we find ourselves in the situation, it's another. My question would be, what if one person feels ready or that they want kids and the other person strongly feels not yet?
So, just as a piece of advice, I heard a great thing actually just recently. It was somebody said that they don't think that they're man enough to ever have kids. And the response was really poignant. And it was from a woman actually. And she said, "You're not man enough to have kids. In fact, you'll never be man enough to have kids until you have kids." It creates the man. You can't be the man
Right.
to have kids. The act of when your child is born is like the
Thrusts you
fire
upon-
that
yeah.
makes the steel. And I was like, yeah, it's true. Like it activate, like you are activated in a whole new realm. And I think anybody that has kids, like I can't explain it to somebody that doesn't have kids, but anybody that has kids, like no further explanation needs to be. They're just like, yep, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Like just a switch goes off. You're just like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Like that, like those three words, like just start coming through your mind. Like, I'll do it. Like anybody out there that's like, I'm never going to change a diaper. The smell of this thing or that, like all of a sudden those just go away.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, I'll do it. I'll do it.
I got it.
I'll do it. And it's just like, so again, it's just like a switch in the back of your mind goes off and you don't even realize it's happening,
Yeah.
which is even cooler.
That's such a beautiful point because that kind of goes into what it changes, and mostly it changes us as individuals. Like I remember, so I have a past of not speaking up for myself and people pleasing, and but I remember being in the hospital with both of our boys after giving birth, and even after our firstborn son, I was outspoken and I was advocating for her and I was saying no, we got to do it this way, and it awoke a part of me that I couldn't have accessed before that, and that evidently it took that to bring it out of me, this kind of bold and assertive woman, because I became that mama bear, for lack of a better term.
And you do that for yourself now more
Yeah.
than you ever did before having children.
Absolutely.
So
And for you,
Yeah.
just in general, for our house, like it has made me into a woman, like a confident, outspoken woman,
yeah.
more than anything could have done.
So the point is, you may not be ready to have kids financially,
Right.
maturity, but I will tell you here and now, the fact is, if you're in a position where it's thrust upon you because God says, hey, it's time, or because, hey,
Accident, or-
whatever.
Not an accident.
No,
I
not
guess
an
that's
accident.
it.
That's what I meant.
We're raising
God-
toddlers. To be fair, I'm prone to say the term accidents happen. That's like my
I
default
said
setting.
God thrust it upon you. You said accident. Those are kind of the same thing in some people's minds. It depends on how you frame it.
Every child is planned and ordained from God.
That's
That's my
correct.
belief.
It's not a belief.
It's
correct.
How it goes into our plans is a different thing.
But truthfully, whether you feel like you're ready, maturity-wise, financially, whatever it is, I am here to tell you. Trisha's here to tell you, and probably every other parent you'll know will tell you. However you feel is irrelevant, you're ready. You are ready. When that baby comes, you are ready. So don't fear it.
Yeah, don't let a financial situation talk you out of what you feel God calling you toward, because God will make a way when we are obedient. You know, if you feel him calling you to start a family. What I do want to touch on though is when one person feels that they're really called to start a family and the other doesn't, I would actually yield to the person who wants to wait, because I think it's a really dangerous situation in a marriage for one person to thrust another person into such a life-changing chapter.
And I also think it's very important to have an honest conversation about why.
Yes.
The why here
is very
crucial.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, I want to wait, listen, because it might be very simple. It might be, I want to enjoy our marriage for another 6 months, another 8 months.
Yeah.
Totally understandable. I get it, because that's who I was.
Right.
You know, and we talked about that. I was like, I really want to enjoy being married.
Yeah.
I've waited a long time to find you.
Have you enjoyed being married?
It's amazing. Every day, every night, every weekend.
Just thanking your lucky stars.
Paradise. You know, it's just my little slice of heaven is right here.
That's true.
So, but is it financial? Is it these other reasons? And then at least you could have honest conversations about when it does become right. Mm-hmm. If it's because the God's honest truth is, in this scenario, if you're not being honest about it and you're saying, let's say it's a man and a woman and the man is not ready. Mm-hmm. Financially, we can't afford it yet. I need another promotion. I need this. I need that. I need this. Well, here's the problem with that. What happens if you get a promotion in a month?
Yeah.
And now you're being pressured into having a baby. And
learning a new job. But
not learning a new job. That's what I mean. You weren't being honest. You really you're not ready. You want to enjoy the marriage more, but now you're caught in a little bit of a white lie, and now you have to make another excuse as to why you're not ready. Or worse, you don't want to lie, and now you're going to have a baby.
Yeah.
So
it's important to be
honest, be transparent, and be respectful of each other's wishes and where you are.
I was going to say, it's important to, because here's the thing. So like, when to have them, why to have them. Like, I think why to have them, we've kind of answered. If God calls you to have them and expand your family, absolutely. Why not to have them is to force a closeness in the relationship.
Well, yeah.
That can be established some other way. My fear for some couples is that if one person's in a particularly stressful season in their life and then babies are forced upon them, because here's the thing is, I don't think that kids change your relationship. I think that it turns the volume up, literally and figuratively. In that, like,
perfect.
What's the phrase where it's like, money doesn't change a person's character, it reveals a person's character? Babies don't change a marriage, it reveals the character of the marriage. And so if you have a bad marriage and you're trying to save it by having a child with the person, horrible idea, because it's just going to turn the volume up, and it's going to be a stressful situation on top of a difficult situation, when it should be a beautiful addition to a wonderful marriage.
Yeah.
And unless your marriage is healthy, it's probably not the best time to have kids.
Children are, the way you word is kind of perfect, and this is a point that doesn't need a whole lot of belaboring. Mm-hmm. They're going to amplify it. If you want me to put this in a weird way, they're gasoline. Your situation is a fire.
Or a car.
They're going to make this fire bigger. Is this fire a good thing or a bad thing? Right?
Yeah.
Is
it like a community bonfire where I grew up like partying in the woods in rural Ohio? Yes. That was a great bonfire. That was a great fire.
No. By the way, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there aren't going to be stressful moments, no matter how great your marriage is. We're not fools.
And we talked about that in the episode on how to get through tough seasons.
But if you have a beautiful marriage, if you have a good marriage with good communication, everything, children are going to give you a beautiful family.
Right.
If and not to say there's not going to be hard moments, but if you have a difficult marriage, a struggling marriage, a marriage that isn't doing well, children are not going to fix it. They are not, what's that tape that's the infomercial?
Oh, with the boat where they saw the boat in half and they put the tape on? The children are not the tape to save the boat of your sawed-out marriage.
No, that's not what they are. Quite the opposite, actually. So please don't, think that that's the move. And I think inherently we all know that. I think when children are looked at as that by generally people that probably need some therapy or unhealthy people, they're not even looked at as a fix. They're looked at as a fishing rod, almost like an anchor. I want to make sure we stay together. Yeah. It may not fix it. Yeah. But it's going to at least keep us together.
And for any kids raised in that environment, there is healing found through God in that. But you're placing people. I think sometimes we use the word kids and it can kind of water it down. But you're placing people in situations that are dysfunctional and unhealthy and that they're going to need healing from, when really it's if we get our marriage to the right place, then it's a better environment for everybody.
And it's a cycle it's hard to break as adults too.
Yeah, and I think that, one thing that marriage has highlighted, how it changes us, is Jimmy and I always talked about the importance of having a healthy, loving, faithful marriage. But it became, the stakes were raised when we had kids. So individually, we believe that. And as a couple, we believe that. But now setting the example for our children, it turns the volume up and it's all in now. Yeah. Where it's now we are demonstrating to them what a relationship is, and whatever we demonstrate will become their normal. And I really want people to understand that what we are showing our kids by way of marriage is going to be their baseline normal. And when they find themselves in a relationship that varies from ours, maybe it's somebody treating them poorly, which God help somebody if they treat our babies poorly, but it's they're going to know because it's not going to feel normal, Sure. And similarly, people raised in a difficult situation, when they're treated well, sometimes that can feel not normal and they can repel that because they're not used to it. And so whatever we're demonstrating to them, that's going to be where they feel most comfortable in life. And I think that should be a really sobering and humbling thing for us to understand, is what we're giving them is that foundation.
Yeah. So I think we've already, in a lot of ways, touched on what it does change in the marriage once you do decide to have children and once they come. We talked about the switch that goes off. Don't worry, you're ready.
Let's talk about the stereotype of well, you'll never have sex again. Because I feel
always go there.
No, I do not always go. Don't paint me as some sort of no. This is the stereotype. Is
the stereotype would be if I always went there.
Well, that's part of the stereotype, is this idea of, and I wasn't going to call out men. I was just going to universalize it. But if you want to, this stereotype of, you're going to lack that intimacy. And to that, I would just say, I think that you just need to get more creative. Maybe you just get more creative about when and how and where and things like that.
That is true.
But we do need to touch on that because,
sure, you have to make time.
When you're tired with a newborn, it's going to shift things a little bit. But you get, you
have to make time. You have to
prioritize the relationship.
Which was, I think, a topic that we used already.
Yes.
But it is true. You make the time. You have to... prioritizing your relationship is going to be paramount, especially in the early years. Mm-hmm. But even as they get older, because then sports and concerts and things like that, weekends go like that. And, just remembering that in your marriage, there is another person there that you committed to. And, when you become empty nesters, you're going to be back to being just the two of you again. So the two of you remaining that core is paramount to the marriage, but it's also paramount to raising your kids, because you want to show them a healthy marriage and a loving marriage, because you are doing so much for them, showing them what to go and get when you're an adult, the type of marriage you want to seek out. If you have a little boy or a little girl, who you want them to go find, what they are worth, what they deserve. This is something that I think we forget. We can't go out on a date night. We can't take the time for ourselves. We need to worry about our kids. No. You are worrying about your kids. I see a lot of fitness influencers talk about go to the gym, prioritize the gym, because you are prioritizing your kids. You're showing them how important their health is, and you're showing them that you want to be around for a long time for them. That's true. Now put that in the context of your marriage.
You had to talk me into date nights. I didn't want to go. Not that I didn't want to spend time with you, but as a new mom and as a homebody in general, I was like, no, I got to stay home. I got to be with this baby all the time. And you had to share with me, no, this is how we show up for our kids, is we show up for our marriage. And that was really impactful for me. I didn't grow up seeing a regular date night. And so when you brought that idea to me, I was like, oh, what a luxury. And now it's no, it's become a necessity, because it's important to keep the marriage amidst the broader family. If all the time we have together is time with the kids, which is sort of the season we're in right now with young kids, aside from our date nights, it becomes very kid-focused in all the settings, just by default, as it should. But when it's the two of us, we can focus on being adults together.
And do you want to hear how impressionable kids are? My parents got divorced at a very young age. I remember date night. And and I knew how important it was. And it clearly didn't end well. But, but it's something that I always knew needed to be a priority in a marriage. So,
yeah. And you hung on to what worked.
I did.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's important too.
100%.
Is when we look at the marriage as modeled to us, to keep what worked and maybe change the things that, we saw that we would like to change.
Yeah. So we could probably dive into a whole episode of changes in the family it probably go through the life cycle of kids. What you could expect in your family changing as it gets older. You got in your point about the intimacy stuff, which I know is very important for you to get out there.
It is very important to me. And you. Don't be a liar.
I don't have to talk about it because I know you're going to. So.
That's right. I'll bear the brunt of the awkwardness to address the elephant in the room sex and marriage.
that is why we're a great match. I don't have to worry about it. I know you're going to get it out there, and I get to pretend like I'm some
innocent,
innocent gentleman.
You're talking about what now?
How dare you?
Clutching your non-existent pearls.
But yeah, I think that would be a really great idea that maybe down the road we talk about just the evolution of the family and how it does change your marriage and how to keep prioritizing the relationship within the family dynamic. I think now we could, get into our Answer the Internet.
Answer the Internet.
All right. So we had a very pretty short but great question, because I put it out there to get some questions for our mailbag episode, which is going to be coming up soon, which will be exclusively Answer the Internet, so that'll be fun. But this is a great question that we wanted to get out there right away. And it was to me, how did God tell you that Trisha was going to be your bride? And I thought that was a really great question that we could talk about. Oh, boy.
Pray tell.
Maybe not.
This was a bad idea. You've greatly underestimated me and my maturity level in this question.
Yeah, that's true. So some of you know the story already that, we didn't have a long courtship. I'm a very impatient man.
How long until you bought the ring, the engagement ring?
5 months.
I thought it was 6, but
I don't know.
The details get hazy. It was fast.
November, December, January. It was 7 months.
Oh, no. Because we started dating in late August.
Yeah, so it was 6-7 months, depending on whatever. Either way, it was 7 months. It was 6 or 7 months. It was very early on. Here's the deal. I was older. I had been
What was older? Define older.
I was in my mid-30s.
Okay.
I had been looking for you. I had been waiting for you. I've been looking for you. I've been getting some side eyes from people, friends, family, whoever, some funny comments like, dude, what are you waiting for? I obviously had, tried to meet find you. So I had
So
to.
you had relationships.
I had relationships. I it wasn't like I was a recluse and things like that. And people were like, this is a great person. What's wrong with them now? And I was like, you'll know. So there was nothing, wrong with anybody. People would be like, yeah, they're wonderful. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, and I was like, look, you'll get it. You'll know because I'll know. And I was confident in that. Not to say that after a little while, I wasn't getting like, I don't know, maybe not.
This isn't going to happen for me.
Maybe I am the idiot. But no. So I was just I had a lot of faith that you were out there. I used to say the right person was out there. It is nice that I get to say you now. And
a little vindication there behind the faith.
Yes,
Like,
I was never
some evidence.
I never spiked the football on that with people. I guess I could have. Like, see, I told you. But when we started dating, it wasn't long after a relationship, and I was really quick to it. I knew that this was special. I knew it was different. I really did very quickly. And one of the ways I knew was I was doing things that I didn't normally do. Now, that could be anything for people, right? Like, like we went to museums, and I not that I don't enjoy going to a museum, because I do. I really do. But I enjoyed it. It was just like a different level of enjoyment.
Where you didn't feel dragged there?
Yeah, well, I like history. But in this case, I was appreciating like art.
Yeah, because about a month into our dating, maybe like 5 weeks into dating was my birthday, and he asked what I wanted to do. So I asked him to take me to the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art and then out to lunch afterwards. And it was such a delightful day. It was such a fun day.
It was. And I just don't think twice about it. You know what I mean? I loved it. And not that like in the past I'd be like, you dragging me, like I'd get dragged to it, but I'd be like, all right, I got to do this. You know what I mean? And it was like, awesome, let's do it. I can't wait.
Yeah.
With like that became like, and I got so much joy and love and pride in watching you do it and then experiencing it myself with you.
Yeah.
And just everything was like reframed for me. Like I wasn't reframing it myself.
Like you weren't trying. It was just sort of an effortlessness.
Yeah. And
I'm going to weigh in
in
just a little bit to share my experience because mine was such that before every date we went on, I would pray and I would say, God, lead me to the person that you have for me. If it's not him, get him out of there, basically, in one way or another. And then afterwards I would pray, as you would ask me on different dates and more dates, I would pray before each one and see what I felt, like where I felt God calling me toward. And the best way I could describe it, I described it with a friend of mine as like, it just felt like there was an engine humming underneath, like propelling me forward down the tracks like a train almost. And it just felt like there was a momentum and it felt like there was a chemistry there that at every turn, it's not like on date one, like we were both like, we're going to get married, because that's probably a sign of something else that needs to be addressing. We can all have hopes and dreams, but like we also, need to live in reality and have discernment as well, and not just these starry-eyed whatevers. But it's like to continually discern and continue to bring God into every step of the process was what helped me, and that informed all of my decisions and how I showed up. And actually, for somebody like me who was not very confident, it gave me a lot of confidence because it was like I didn't feel like it was just me on a whim, like, oh, I want to go on a date with this guy. It was like, yeah, I want to go on a date with this guy, but God also wants me to go on the date with the guy. And I think that allowed me to be authentic in a different kind of way that I'd never experienced before you. Like when people ask me, I was never able to be myself in a dating situation. I'm not exactly a mellow person. I'm a little high strung. But with Jimmy, I could. And I was like, I remember just being myself and it just happening. And so I would say that that's part of it too, is if, it's good to feel nerves, I think, but like if you're yourself, that's a really good sign.
Nerves, I think, are part of the excitement in the beginning, too.
Exactly. Like, you don't want to show up and be like, well, here I am. You're welcome. That's how I show up now, 5 years into marriage. You're welcome.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
But it's good to feel nervous. I still feel nervous around you sometimes, depending on the situation.
That's also true. I get both. I get the best of both worlds.
There you go.
I do.
It's never a dull moment in our marriage. That much I can assure you.
I would like some dull moments, to be totally honest. I mean, I'm exhausted.
Well, we got young kids. You're not in for some dull moments for a while. So
somebody wants to fly me somewhere for 2 days. I'll talk to you. I'll coach you. It's I could use a nap. I could use a nap. It was. I think that there's a lot of, and for different people, you're going to get different vibes. You're going to get different signs, different feelings. Like for me, it was that ease and wanting to do these things and reframe all these things. And
like a desire to do things that you'd never felt the desire to do.
But didn't even know it.
Yeah.
In the moment, didn't even know it. And
it just felt natural.
I think back on it and I'm like, man, I did a lot of stuff that I just normally wouldn't have done.
Yeah. My friends were really impressed with you when I would tell them the stories. They were like, who is this guy and where did you find him?
Well, also, I've heard your dating stories before me. The bar was pretty low.
It's true.
We'll talk about them in later episodes.
You know what, though? God used that because then when you came along, you really wowed me. So, you know what?
It was a 6-inch hurdle and I really cleared it. You know what I mean? Because I can't jump that high.
Or ordered.
And I knew early on I wanted to propose. I proposed before even we hit a year. And
that's right. You proposed at 11 months.
Yep. And we prayed in that moment together.
We did.
And you said yes in that moment. You didn't have to leave and pray. We prayed. You said yes in that moment.
Yep.
It's been a lovely journey, and I'm very grateful.
I would say if somebody brings you closer to God, like I saw this in a meme recently where it's like, if the marriage is a triangle and God is at the top, then as you both pursue God, you're also getting closer together. And for me, I think a good litmus test is, does the person bring you closer to God or farther away? And that's not necessarily to say you're going to marry the person, but no matter who you're with at any given time, they should bring you closer to God. If they're encouraging you to watch shows that don't feel right in your spirit, to do things that don't feel right in your spirit, to go out and use substances that you shouldn't be, these are people leading you away from God, and that's not going to be a good foundation for any relationship, friendship, romantic, otherwise, whatever. And so it's like, I think when I think about our courtship, I think about how much I prayed, and it absolutely brought me closer to God. And so, it's easy then to keep God at the forefront of our relationship when he was the foundation of our relationship.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to
wrap it up.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how I knew. Well, a lot of those reasons. I guess that's not one reason, but a lot of those reasons are how I knew. So, and yep, I'm luckier every day for it. So
you are luckier every day. And now we get to have kids and demonstrate a good marriage to them, and
still like a nap though.
Yeah.
Still like a nap.
Still not getting one.
Anyway, this has been Holy Matrimony. I'm James Fenimore at James Fenimore _.
I'm Trisha Fenimore. That's at Trisha Fenimore. You can find the show at Holy Matrimony __. And you can find us on YouTube and Rumble at The Fenimores.
See you next time.